Halacha Yomi. So, Halacha 39, page 250. Even though, according to many Rishonim, one must eat meat each day of the Moed to fulfill his obligation of Simcha. There's a mitzvah of Simcha on Yom Tov, and you have to eat meat and wine. The poskim say that it's praiseworthy to do so, but it's not obligatory. Shulchan Aruch Erev says one should try to eat more than usual on the Moed, especially meat, but it's not an obligation. 40. According to the most stringent opinions, that Simchat Yom Tov requires to eat meat each day of the holiday. One should preferably eat actual meat instead of chicken or other types of poultry. Some people like to eat duck, but preferably you should eat beef. You should eat actual meat. However, if one cannot attain meat or is unable to eat it because of health reasons, you may fulfill the mitzvah through poultry. 41. One should try to drink at least a minimal amount of wine each day of the holiday to fulfill the mitzvah of simcha. Okay, good. 42. One should drink wine as opposed to grape juice. However, if one does not like wine or does not drink it for health reasons, you could fulfill this mitzvah of having wine on the holiday via grape juice. According to some poskim, one may drink whiskey instead of wine. You hear? So we gotta tell this to Shefa. He's very makbid on the holiday whiskey. You tell him, yes, according to the Debritzin Rav, you fulfill the mitzvah of Simchat Yom Tov through drinking whiskey and you even if you don't drink wine. But preferably, to fulfill everybody's opinion, drink wine. 44. One is not obligated to have Melava Malka Motzei Yom Tov. It's not. There are some people who would. There are some poskim who do, but they're not obligated. 45. When Yom Tov is Motzei Shabbat, it's praiseworthy to add a dish into the Yom Tov meal for the honor of Melava Malka. Okay. Let's skip to Havdalah 51. Unlike Motzei Shabbat, on Motzei Yom Tov, only the bracha of Agefen and Mavdil is Motzei Yom Tov. Everybody always asks, Motzei Yom Tov, what's Havdalah? What's Havdalah? What do we do? Do we do Besamim? No. Do we do the candle? No. So what do we do? Only Hagefen and Hamavdil. That's the only things you say. The bracha on the spices and the fire is skipped, omitted. Okay, 52. Havdalah for Yom Tov is said both on the end of first days, and it's also said on the end of the last days. Doesn't matter that you're going into Chol HaMoed, you still have to do Havdalah. 53. When Yom Tov is Motzei Shabbat, one should add V'todienu in Atahonantanu of Shemona Esrei. 54. One who forgot to say V'todienu does not have to repeat the Amidah. 55. Some people have the custom to visit the Kotel every holiday in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Aliyah L'Regel. There is certainly not an obligation, since many poskim say there's not such a mitzvah in our time. There's a little bit of argument. Aliyah L'Regel means you got to go to Temple Mount. Is Kotel Plaza considered already reaching Temple Mount, or do you have to actually go up the ramp to be considered visiting Temple Mount? Even Rav Avadia, Alav Shalom, many times we know that during Hol HaMoed, right, not first day of Sukkot, all the other days are the Rabbanan. Only first day is the Oraita. So he wanted to fulfill the Oraita all the days. How do you fulfill the Oraita all the days? If you go to Temple Mount. If Temple Mount, it's the Oraita all 7 days. So therefore he would try to go there on Kotel Plaza every day of Hol HaMoed to shake over there and get mitzvah the Oraita. But he used to be very difficult, and it took a lot of his time, and he got more busier when he was older, so he didn't make the trip all the time. Alav Shalom. But a person who wants to, he's fulfilling, according to some opinions, mitzvah Aliyah Regel when he goes to the temple, goes to the Kotel, even though some opinions say no. 56. One is obligated to visit one's rabbi during the holiday if he lives in the same city and can return on the same day. One should not leave his town and his family behind to visit his rabbi, even with his wife's consent. You hear this? You know, they make a joke, right? That in Rosh Hashanah, all the Breslovers, they go to the Rebbe. So they say, Elul is ani leuman v'ishti lehami. He's going to my amak. She's going to my amak, right? She spends the holiday with him. But it has to be with permission. But even so, he says one should not leave behind his wife family, even with his wife's consent, to visit his rabbi. Rav Avadia he spoke about this many times, not to leave behind your family on the holidays. You should be with your family on the holidays. But again, a person has to know that it takes away from the simcha of their holiday. But anyways, 57. One may not fast on Isru and it's praiseworthy to make a small meal in the honor of Isru Chag. Isru Chag is the day after the holiday, it's also special. There's no, a lot of times there's a uniqueness and holiness to Isru Chag. You have to also respect it. Okay, we're moving on now to what's prohibited and what's permitted on activities on Yom Tov. The Rambam says, whoever rests on melacha, from melacha on the days of Yom Tov fulfills a positive commandment of the Torah. Because the Torah says it's Shabbaton, day of rest. Whoever performs labor on days of Yom Tov, that's not for the preparation of food, right? He builds, he destroys, he weaves. He negates a positive commandment and violates a negative commandment. As it says, you shall not perform any labor. You shall not perform any work on them. And if a person is witnessed doing forbidden labor on Yom Tov, and he gets a warning and he still does it, he receives lashes. What's the difference Shabbat and Yom Tov? Shabbat, we break Shabbat, there's skila, there's a death penalty. The most severe one, stoning, right? And if you don't get a death penalty by Beddin, Hashem gives you the punishment of karet. Person dies between the age 50 to 60, or he buries a son, or he loses his bolam haba, or both. But a person who violates Yom Tov, at most, you can get lashes. At most, it's a negative prohibition from the Torah. It does not bear death penalty like Shabbat. So, does that mean you're allowed to break Yom Tov? No. It just, the punishments are different. One's more severe than the other. Sefer HaChinuch says, why did Hashem make it that Yom Tov you can't work? On Yom Tov you can't do melacha. Is in order the Jewish nation should remember the great miracles Hashem did for us and their ancestors, in order to pass this message on to their children. If work was permitted on these days, we would be busy with work and not honor the festival. So therefore, that's why we're not doing melacha on Yom Tov. Number one, Shabbat and Yom Tov are very similar, and in many aspects, Yom Tov is more lenient than Shabbat. For example, one big example we're going to see, with an existing fire, you're allowed to cook. You're allowed to cook on Yom Tov, you're not allowed to do that on Shabbat. Two, melachot that are rabbinically prohibited on Shabbat are also prohibited on Yom Tov. Therefore, there are even additional rabbinical decrees you're not allowed to engage in that detract from the atmosphere of Yom Tov and make it feel like a regular day. Also on Yom Tov, you're not allowed to tell a goy what to do. A non-Jew, right? A Gentile, you're not allowed to tell a Gentile what to do on Shabbat. So you can't tell him to do it on Yom Tov as well, except for minor exceptions. Yom Tov Sheni, second day Yom Tov in the diaspora. One can be lenient to ask a non-Jew to perform melacha, provided that the melacha is need for a mitzvah in order to prevent substantial loss. Just like on Shabbat, number 5, one's speech on Yom Tov should be different than during the week. Okay, next time we're going to speak about what type of food can be cooked on Shabbat and how do you deal with on Yom Tov. I'm sorry, not on Shabbat, on Yom Tov. What kind of food can be cooked on Yom Tov, and how do you deal with fires on Yom Tov? Baruch Hashem.